Welcome to Clip Art Photoshop Theater, where stories come to die. There was once a majestic kingdom. The king and queen enjoyed the jester in a time of peace and prosperity. All was going so very well until this dragon decided to show up. He lands on the castle and just blows through the wall and goes, ah! And he leans down and just bites the head off the jester, and he just falls down dead on the ground and starts bleeding to death. And the dragon goes, bah, 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 bah. That's how dragons laugh. And the king and queen are like, oh no! And so they run off into the distance, and they run off to the other room of the castle. All right. Now the dragon is fast, and the dragon can catch up with them. So the dragon starts chasing them, and just sees them, and he laughs again. And the king's like, "Oh no! Protect me, wife!" And the queen's like, "I'll protect you." And then she gets absolutely incinerated and turns into a crispy bit of bacon. And the king's like, "Oh no, I'm out of here!" And he leaves. And then the dragon laughs again, and then he decides to leave again on the other side. Yeah, she died. She died. Yeah, she died here. The dragon flies out of the castle, starts raining terror on the town, just fireballs everywhere. It's laughing, and flies away, and the townsfolk are freaking out. The peasants are screaming, they're running in panic, some are on fire. Suddenly the dragon flies off into the distance across, and you see the evil wizard Malakamakazar here standing. He laughs, his evil laugh. "I have disrupted your government," and with a snap of his fingers is just poof, gone. Okay, so the king is understandably a little upset. So he calls to his three noblest knights. He calls for Sir Copy, Sir Cut, and Sir Paste. And all of them stand there before him. He tells them, "Go get that guy." And they all bow and say, "Okay, yes, sir, whatever, all right." And so the king also decides to give them the ultimate weapon ultimate thing he could bestow upon them. So he calls to his priest and brings him over here. And the priest is like, "Yes, father, how are you doing?" and bows to him. And then the king is like, "Give them the thing," and the goober. And then he just walks away. And the priest approaches the knights and goes, "Okay, I'm going to bestow upon you the holiest of relics. This is the crystal gem Rold, and it will protect you from all sorts of evil on your quest. Take it and do well with it." The knights are like, "Yes, thank you very much," and they decide to leave it, and they start to leave the castle. The village is still on fire, and everyone's still freaking out, but luckily, the knights are on the case to revenge the revenging of killing the queen. They leave the frame and decide to continue on their quest towards a large mountain range in which the evil wizard Malakazar decides to live. They travel for days, and then they're also traveling for nights, and eventually they get to the bottom. They get to the bottom of this giant mountain, and they start to climb up to where Malakazar's fortress is. They start climbing up, and suddenly, there's this guy out of the woods. He's dressed like a future man. Cut tries to cut something, and with the switch of a sword, cuts his legs off, and he runs back. And then Pace runs up, and then Pace's legs right on his face, and then Benjamin Franklin's because his crotch is in his mouth, and they all cheer, and then they continue moving up the mountain. Eventually they get to the gate, and the Black Knight's like, "You shall not pass," and he starts talking "You must answer these riddles," but he can't get anything out because they're already beating him to death. And so they stand back, and then he just falls over dead, and there's blood everywhere. I mean, it's all over the gate, and it's starting to pool at the ground. It's really gross. It's really grotesque. This is really R-rated. And so they cheer, and then they go into the castle. They finally find Malakazar, and then so they're like, "Oh, we're gonna get you." And so Copy runs forward, and then Malakazar snaps his fingers, and there goes Copy and gets turned into a goat. And then Copy retreats as he does, right? And then Cut jumps forward and tries to switch his sword and cut again, but he can't because it's Photoshop. And so then Pace is finally just I'll take that. And he pastes another version of Benjamin Franklin's crotch on Malakazar's face. But Malakazar knows how to use layers, so he puts his face in front of that, and then suddenly he just decides to poof! Banish them to the realm of never-ending horrors and chaos and torture. Ha 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 ha! He laughs. Okay, so now the three knights are banished to the realm of torture and pain and everything like that, okay, right? Suddenly they look to the left, and then they look to the right again, and they hear someone calling for help, and they're like, "Oh, where's that coming from?" So they go try and check it out, and they see a turtle being beaten up by this weird Pac-Man demon. The weird Pac-Man demon's like, "Ah!" and the turtle's like, "Help!" and the goat's like, and bites it, right? And then the demon goes, "Ow," and then decides to leave. And the turtle's like, oh, thank you so much for helping. Because the turtle's upside down, it turns into, a hag or something like that. And the hag's like, oh, thank you for helping me. I know why you're here. I could help you on your quest. Come with me. I'll help you on your way. And so they decide to follow the hag deeper into the plane of torture and pain and agony and fire and everything. So it shows us like 4 smoldering corpses and says, oh, one of these is the princess, or not the princess, the queen that you're looking for. And he's like, pick the right one and you may leave. And all 4 of them kind of look identical, with the same anyway. And so, thinking quickly, Sir Cut throws up the crystal diamond's emerald thingy, and it suddenly just flashes, and then zap, there goes one. And they're like, yeah, it's not that one. And it goes again, it goes zap, and it's not that one. Yeah! And then it goes zap again, and then a third appears. And it's very confusing on a lot of levels. So they decide, you know what, we're going to go with that one. And so they bring it to him, and the hag's like, oh, you did it, yeah, you got the right one. And so she snaps her fingers, and they go back to the regular world, and back to the kingdom. All right, and they get teleported back to the castle, and the queen has been there for so long, and time is different in that area that she's grown a big white bushy beard. And the king sees her, and he's like super happy that she's back, and he's probably even more happy that they're both have matching beards now, and he's very, very excited, as you could probably tell. They go back to what they were doing originally, and they just continue to live happily ever after and listen to their jesters. Everything was good. Until it wasn't. Suddenly, the queen turned into a jester that's been taken over by the evil flames from the plane below. He blows a comet hole into the jester that they just replaced, and he laughs again. Ha 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 ha! And he runs over to the king and says, "Oh, you're coming with me, your highness!" And he straight up kidnaps the king again and just runs off stage right. He decides to run out of the town, and hearing the commotion, the 3 knights continue to chase him. They chase him farther down fields and everything, off poorly painted fields, and into this really spooky-looking church thing, and they go inside, and then the jester and the king see the priest, and the priest is like, hello, and he shoots this dark energy orb at the priest, and it starts taking over the priest, and the priest is no longer protected from the crystal diamond emerald, and just starts, like, turning evil and everything, and now there's an evil cleric priest. Now, meanwhile, the knights can't get in, and they get frustrated, and they're like, oh, why can't we get in? And just poof! Suddenly, there's Mick Malcazar stands there and says, oh, I know what you're trying to do, and I'm going to help you. You help my mother, and I'm going to do this. Let's zap him. Meanwhile, the evil cleric priest thing is starting to gain power, starting to radiate dark energy, and it's poof, poof, poof. Bam! There comes Sir Copy, now as a gigantic mutated monster goat thing demon. They both start being angry at each other, and they start getting into combat. There's just fires shooting everywhere and giant energy beams. It's just a smorgasbord of special effects, and they're taking hits on each other, and it's just the clash of 2 titans, and it's incredible. It's a CGI smorgasbord up here. All right, now, meanwhile, the jester and the king are there, and the Sir Pace and Sir Cut start attacking the jester. But they're no match for him because the jester's too strong. Suddenly, Cut throws up the crystal diamond emerald, and starts radiating energy over him, and suddenly, in a bright flash of purple light, the ground starts shaking. It starts earthquaking, and then a giant flash of purple light just evaporates the jester, and the priest is better now. He's like, oh yeah, thank God. But the ghost and the soul of the jester, the evil jester, is still floating around. And then Sir Cut is unaware, and he immediately possessed, and suddenly he's an evil knight now. The evil knight goes, wah! And using his powers of Cut, decides to like swoosh things around and just cut out the diamond again. And the priest goes back to evil, and he and the goat start like fighting each other again. Oh, it's just brutal. And Pace is super mad. The Sir Pace like attacks him and strikes him down. He lays dead on the floor. He's angry, and he wields up all of his strength and wills his willpower together, and in one swoop motion pastes another copy of the crystal diamond emerald gem thing into the sky. And just as it appears there, the priest, overcome with dark energy, returns back to being a normal priest instead of just an evil cleric thing. Everything's happy. Both the goat and the priest lay down and come back to the ground. The king is happy. The priest is happy. But everything is happy. But the problem is the Sir Cut is now dead on the ground, and you can see that by the X's that are drawing on his eyes, he is completely dead. The goat thing and Sir Pace are mourning their friend. They have a funeral for both the queen and the guy wearing the cotton candy on his head, and everyone's sad. But afterwards, Sir Pace, for all his heroism, gets crowned king of all of the land, and everybody bows, and everything is happy. yeah, everything is great from now on, at least until the next dragon arrives.